Minister, I had a look at the Fine Gael website, not something I normally do, but you have an ad running where you say Fine Gael, quote, supported carers and people with disabilities in Budget 2026. And sometimes you need to check yourself because in case it's AI or whatever. How exactly did you support carers and people with disabilities, if you could explain that? Because I'm going to go with disabled organisations and individuals, to be frank, rather than maybe Fine Gael on this one, because if we should have learned anything in the last few years, it should have been to listen to disabled people and to listen to what a force that they are. You know, with the care referendum, with the Green Paper being pushed back, and so on and so forth. And I actually am a little bit mystified as to why in the budget you singularly picked out disabled people for no help at all, because the €10 a week, which, you know, people were joking in grim humour what they were going to spend the €10 a week on, but the €10 a week was completely taken away by all of the other things. So the Irish Wheelchair Association estimates that disabled people are €1,400 worse off, and the Disability Federation of Ireland said the same. Are you saying that they're lying, Minister? Because €1,400 is quite a lot of money. And the reason for this is the withdrawal of the one-off payments that were there in the last couple of budgets. Now, we all know, or we should know, that the permanent cost of disability is massive. You know, the most conservative estimates, if you have a disability of, you know, 10 to 15,000, I'd say that's way underestimated. And there was a promise that there would be a permanent cost of disability payment, and that has now been delayed until 2027, another broken promise as well. There needs to be a permanent cost of disability payment because households are paying, you know, way over the odds if they have a disabled person. And in actual numbers, we know it's about anything for about €300 a week is estimated. Now, it should be noted that the reason for the drop-off is the disability support grant, the living alone allowance and the one-off payments for electricity and so on. So 1 in 5 people who are disabled are already living in consistent poverty, and you've made it so much worse. I want to also mention that a lot of people mention carers, and absolutely quite rightly, and the means test for carers should have been gone, and again, nothing really has been done on that. But I also want to say there should not be a means test for disabled people either. Now, I put in a question some time back, and the answer I got for what it would cost to get rid of the means test for disabled people was €6 billion. It was laughable. It was basically based on every single person who's disabled would be claiming it, which you know is not true, because lots of disabled people don't claim any payments whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying you drew up that answer, Minister, but I'm just giving you an example as to why it was ludicrous. But even, for example, everybody who had a very severe disability was not to be means tested. It would be about €500 million, which is roughly what it cost to give the developers those, you know, apartment incentives that you gave them in the budget, tax write-offs and so on. So you made your priorities very, very clear, Minister, with those decisions. I also want to mention one of the reasons, and I think this was alluded to earlier by Deputy Boyd Barrett too, it's been pointed out to me by disabled people that there's actually a marriage bar for disabled people, because if you get married, you're going to lose your income, you're going to be reduced to poverty. So many disabled people can't get married. And this was pointed out to me by 2 disabled people who did actually get married in the last year, but they've taken a hit financially for that because one becomes the dependent of the other. So we're going to have to start up a campaign. We've had marriage equality campaigns. We're now going to need a campaign to allow disabled people the right to get married, thanks to the absolute, you know, privileging of profit, of capital, of big business and of corporations at every hand's turn by this government and by previous and successive governments that you've been a part of.
Thank you, Deputy.